This is part 2 of an Ape Escape review. Watch part 1, you idiot. Platforming is also a major component of the game. The levels reward players for learning and performing advanced platforming techniques by letting them bypass certain parts of the levels. A lot of moving platforms have looping animations that can be traversed really fast if you make perfect use of the double jump and the heli gadget. Otherwise they can be completed safely but slowly, so it's not unbearably frustrating or difficult to players who have trouble with the controls, while still letting players with advanced skill play the game at maximum engagement levels. There are a fair few pits of death, but a lot of the punishment for bad platforming is falling down to an earlier part of the stage. The most notable is that snow level with the waterfall. It's a very long climb to the top, and there's no shortcut once you get up there, so if you fall down, that's it. Do it again. The enemies are suitably non-aggressive. Their biggest threat to you is knocking you off the edge of a platform so that you have to fucking climb all the way back up. You can take most of them out at range, except for the ones that hide in the ground. They're sneaky, them guys. Or you can get really good at jumping away from their attacks, or attacking mid-air, or completely ignoring them like a badass. There's lots of ways to get around them. There's lots of ways to get around the levels too. Since the objective in each stage is to capture a certain amount of monkeys instead of getting to an endpoint, levels are fairly open to exploration and often have branching or looping paths. For an experienced player, ignoring monkeys at the beginning of the stage and instead catching monkeys at the end of a particularly difficult platforming section will end up saving time and stress when you have to return to the level later to catch the remaining monkeys, since once you collect the required amount the first time through, you're automatically booted out of the stage, in a neat, flashy way that's probably one of my favorite level ending sequences of all time.
Well done!
Yeah! The gadgets are all great and play with the idea of dual analog sticks in unique ways. The net and the stun club operate in the same way that I already described. You push a direction, and he swings in that direction. The stun club has an added effect of being able to be continuously spun around to create a disc of damage. The swimming thingy is for swimming, which at least makes swimming fast from the beginning, but it's not that fun to control, because fuck the ocean. Though it does have a neat feature where it can capture swimming monkeys with an underwater net launcher, which is not that difficult to use since it has a generous hitbox. But fuck the noise it makes when you're trying to go quickly, that's just ear-piercing. Enough! The monkey radar tells you where the monkeys are. You can tell by moving the right analog stick in a direction and watching for the pitch of the sound and the color of the waves. If they're in the same area as you, you can also get a live view of them, which can help in locating some of the cleverly hidden ones. Like this guy. I didn't see him. The Slingshot is the one gadget which is basically useless unless in first-person mode. You pull down on the right analog stick to pull back the elastic and then release to fire. You got various ammos, explosive pellets and homing pellets, which are by far the most useful, cause sometimes you gotta shoot down monkey UFOs and the homing things they lock right on that monkey UFO. The dash hoop makes you go fast by spinning. I don't know how. It's cool though. The propeller helipack upgrade, whatever the fuck it's called, requires you to spin the right analog stick around continuously to continue gliding. This one is particularly fun to incorporate into flashy platforming stunts, like deploying it just as you're about to hit the ground to prevent fall damage, or to glide to a part of the level you shouldn't be at quite yet. There are obvious paths to follow, but the propeller lets you act like a rule breaker, risk taker, and that's fun as fuck. The RC car is one of the weirder ones. It moves around on the ground using the right analog stick, and can be used simultaneously and independently of Spike's movement. You can move normally with the left stick and jump, you can even switch to a different gadget momentarily, and the car won't disappear. It's used to fit through small gaps and do some mini platforming puzzles on its own, or to scare monkeys out of their safe spaces. Man, I didn't need to say any of that. I just needed to mention that the gadgets are unique and are used in interesting ways, but I went through and detailed all of them like... It's stupid. Why do I do that? Why does anybody do that? If you played the game before, you already know everything that I'm saying, and if you haven't played the game before, why would you need that much convincing? If you trust me, then you'll trust that when I say the gadgets are unique and interesting, I'm telling the truth. The next time I do a lengthy, pointless explanation of bullshit, please kill me. So, the game is great, definitely worth your time if you ever liked a 3D platformer, regardless of the region variant. Which brings me back to the other main point of this review, which is to compare the English and American versions of the game, which aside from voice acting actually does have a gameplay difference, that being the frame rate. You may know that PAL region games play at 50 FPS, and NTSC at 60. You can find many videos explaining why this is the case, but the important thing is how that affects the gameplay. And basically, it just makes the PAL version slower. You wouldn't think 10 FPS makes much of a difference, but it does. Here's a side-by-side. But what does this mean? Probably that makes the PAL version easier. You're playing the game in slow motion essentially, you've got more time to think. It also makes the game longer in general. Having played both versions, I don't find one to be superior necessarily. It's perfectly playable and fun at 50 and 60 FPS. The increased speed of the American version doesn't make it much more difficult. In fact, I played it with my American friends in America a while ago, and we beat the whole game in one night. We recorded it as well. Check the description for a link, it's like 5 hours long. You got time. So basically the main difference between the two versions is the voice acting. Let's look at some more of that. Aside from the big cutscenes, which we'll get to as we get through the story, there are little messages that the professor leaves Spike in between stages. Honestly, there's not much to talk about here. We already established that the UK professor has a deep, rich, silky smooth, funny voice, so he just wins automatically.
In this next period, you'll find that most of the planet is covered with water.
I can't even imagine what kind of living creatures may appear. Be very careful.
And then there are the bits after each stage where Katie congratulates us on our skill at catching monkeys.
You're good.
Oh, shucks. You mean it? You're good at being beautiful. No, stupid.
You did great.
Thanks, I guess. And that's my critical analysis of that. I had a crush on Katie and not on Natalie. But putting that aside, as much as I can, Natalie does not sound quite as enthusiastic or congratulatory.
You did great. You're good.
When you catch every single monkey in a stage, she says something different.
You did it. You did it.
Again, Natalie sounds less enthusiastic. Is that just me? Am I too biased? It's just... Wait, I haven't even talked about catching monkeys yet. Holy shit! The monkeys have varying abilities based on their pants color. Most of the time, it means they just have different weapons. The most annoying ones are the green pant ones, which shoot rockets that can stun lock you. But all monkeys can be annoying little bastards to catch. Which makes sense. They're goddamned escaped monkeys. The way they scurry and jump all over the place to get away from you is exactly how you would expect catching a monkey to be. Erratic, frantic, and frustrating. Giving them a good whack with the stun club knocks them down for just enough time to swing the net at them, so that's the most reliable way to catch them, but once they start getting advanced weaponry and fighting back, it becomes quite aggravating. Catching them though is a big relief. Once the monkey is caught, he is no longer there to annoy you. Some places have monkeys instead of enemies to hinder your progress, and make platforming difficult. But once they're caught, that area is much safer, so that sort of balances out the frustration of catching them in the first place. Of course, the ideal situation would be for the monkeys to not even notice you before you catch them, and thus not have a chance to fill you full of lead, which is why there's effectively a stealth aspect to catching monkeys. It's not often that useful and is difficult to utilize. You gotta crawl towards them, which is slow and requires that the monkey be reachable without jumping. Honestly, I ignore this aspect of the game, because even the most dangerous monkeys only require a single bump with the stun club to incapacitate. It's pretty cool how the music goes quiet when you do it though. There are a few collectibles to get, the triangles which give you an extra life once you collect 100, and the Spectre coins which unlock minigames. The collectibles are neat, though kinda hard to collect a lot of the time. Jump arcs of triangles are put everywhere, but the chance you'd ever manage to collect them all in one jump is ludicrous. A lot of time is wasted jumping over and over at these fucking things, and you barely need extra lives anyway. Cookies are your health, and most enemies drop cookies, and there are even infinite cookie jars in some areas. Playing through it for this review, I only died 3 times in the whole game. Speaking of the whole game, that's a good enough segue for me to talk about the whole game in order. It's like some sort of review. The game has begun and Spike is in the prehistoric times, catching monkeys with a sci-fi net. Good. Lovely. The first level is really small and lets you get used to the controls fairly quickly. There's trees to climb by jumping into them, a couple little enemies on the ground to teach you how to attack, and a few small cliffs for jumping knowledge. It's a very well-designed introductory stage, and it's over pretty quick. Once you're done, you're booted back into the time station for the first time and can look around. Behind you is the save book and the monkey encyclopedia, which contains information on every single monkey you catch. To the left is the minigame room. Why the professor would build a minigame room in a time station that's unlocked by the power of Spectre coins, a currency he could not have possibly known would exist, is beyond me. We'll get to these later. On the right is the Gadget training room, in case you've forgotten how to use the incredibly memorable and intuitive gadgets. I don't think I've ever gone in here. And of course there's the time traveling button panel. The level select screen is one of the best ever. The hype music contrasts with the calming safety music of the time station and gets you pumped and ready to transition from fucking around to serious monkey business. The little models representing the levels are cool and adorable all at once. Can someone 3D print these? I want them. I'll even give you money. And while you're at it, make a Spectre coin. I want every PlayStation game to be 3D printed in full. I want to be an autistic collector of little low-poly PlayStation models. I want to have a normal-ass family in a house with a white picket fence and a dog but in the basement I'm going to have a huge table, and instead of a model train set, it's going to be a model PlayStation set. I'm going to have every single Spyro level recreated painstakingly accurately, with every single 3D printed gem in the correct place, and over here I'm going to have Shadow Moses Island, and over there I'm going to have the Resident Evil Mansion and Midgar, and there's going to be no touching of any sort. If anybody disturbs the delicate balance of my PlayStation model set, they'll get a sound seen to. And if my kids find their way down here like in the Lego movie and they start playing with everything, and then I burst down in there and I see them, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slap them upside the head and say, Lara Croft and Solid Snake wouldn't be friends, they'd bang instantly, you fucking retards. And I'd reach under the table and pull out my massive tome of shipping quadrants and Wikipedia articles relating to each and every one of the iconic Sony PlayStation characters and school them on the correct way to cross over, and also the birds and the bees in explicit detail, completely ruining their life forever, because they've got to learn, Sean. Hippo, they've got to learn. So yeah, the models are good. Thanks for watching part 2. Come back for part 3 where I'll be talking about fucking every other level and saying things about them, because I don't fucking know how to review games. Yeah, let's fucking just talk about Ape Escape. I love Ape Escape, it's my favorite thing.